Okay, welcome back. I hope everybody's staying safe. I'm going to do another voiceover for this one because this is a little complicated. It's kind of hard to discuss exactly what's going on here, just with visuals. This is the new tool from Shaper, and the reason I'm doing this talkover is because 3 years ago I got to test drive a handmade prototype. And you see what I'm doing right there is the Shaper tool has a hub. You can go to a hub, you sign up, you become a member, and you go to the hub and you can upload artwork from your computer directly to the unit itself. And that's what I've done here. I imported my logo. And talking with Sean over at Shaper, he gave me the idea. He said, you could make this logo board and then you could bring this board wherever you want to place your logo. And it sparked a couple of ideas. And I said, you know what? Let me make this logo board and I can inlay my logo in the trailer. So I can tattoo my trailer. Some of you guys might know one of my trailers got stolen a couple of years ago and I never got it back. And this might not prevent the theft, but it might save me if I happen to see it, if my logo has a logo like this in it. So I don't know. It was really just another thing to experiment with too. You guys know I love technology. I love learning new CNC technology. And the best thing about this tool is that you can take it anywhere. And so what I'm doing right here is I'm making a logo board. That 1/4 inch panel I'm going to be able to take with me. And what you notice here, this tool is greatly improved from the prototype that I test drove in 2013, which I'll link in the bottom for the very first time I used this tool. And you could see the graphics are super easy to use. No doubt it was a little intimidating to get past the learning curve. It kind of sat there glaring at me from the corner of the shop. I ignored it for a couple of weeks before I finally got into it. Actually, I got Aaron to learn how to use it, and then he taught me the basics, and then I took it from there. If you don't understand what's happening, when you move the tool around, it compensates. So you stay kind of close to the line, and you notice how the tool is moving to overcompensate for what's happening. And it's a great tool because you could take it anywhere. Of course, I'm working directly on top of my ShopBot tools. It's 5x10 CNC in the shop. But I couldn't do this, and this is why I wanted to test drive this, to do something that I couldn't otherwise do with a CNC machine and test it in the field. Here I am on my trailer. It's the deck of my trailer. And you see I've tattooed it with spray paint, which of course you could paint over. So I wanted to just impress the logo into one of the boards on the trailer. And again, in baby voice, well, all you have to do is remove that board and then the trailer won't be stolen anymore. I'm just playing around. You know, it's obvious that there's a million ways to take a trailer and make it somebody else's personal property against the law. This is me just having fun. One interesting thing is you notice I can go from cutting on the edge of the letter just inside the vector to clearing it out. So you go from a vector cut to a pocket cut. And on those vector cuts, you'll see right there that I just did. I went around the edge. I'm going around the edge of the letter. And then I switch to a pocket cut. Right here I go in there and I switch to a pocket cut. And switching to a pocket cut, I can clear out the letter. I could obviously clear out the letter not using the CNC if I had a separate router. But the vector cuts on the edge are pretty critical. And the machine is reading that tape. It takes a photographic picture of the environment and it remembers that environment. You can import your logo from the hub, which again is connected by the internet. And me being here in this, it's already loaded into the thing. So the first time I set up this file, I could always have it ready to go. It will read that environment. So that logo board that I made in the other shop and I brought over here to the trailer, as soon as you turn on the Shaper, it sees that environment and remembers and loads that environment straight away. So because I have it all saved and I don't plan on changing it, this workspace is going to always be saved for this board. And it will pop up, it reads it and pops it straight up automatically. And I'm obviously touching off, the machine can touch off at the height. For instance, when I first cut the logo board, I touched off at the height of that and cut through at 0.2526 to cut all the way through. And now that I'm on the trailer deck, I touched off inside below the surface of the 1/4 inch board. So I touched off on the trailer deck and then I set the depth of cut to about 1.35, I guess I did 1.25, assuming it was an eighth, and the aluminum ended up being thicker. So there you could see when I switched to a clear cut, or rather a pocket cut. And like I said, it's important to do your border cut first, and then you got a nice precise lines. And if you get a chance to go look at the screen of the shaper on a more up close spot, or maybe you could see it, they're demoing it in a lot of stores. I was actually at Hartfield Hardware in Ohio going into the winter, and there was a demo guy there. So now what I'm doing is I'm insetting aluminum. So I'm cutting my aluminum parts. And I'm setting up a new workspace. This isn't a workspace I'm going to use more than one time, so I'm just setting it up on a sacrificial board. And here I am. I'm bringing that artwork back in again. I brought it back in from the hub. And now you notice I cut on the outside of the vector. And I was being really timid at first with aluminum. This aluminum is 0.135 thick. And so I kept taking 20 thou cuts. So I'm going and I'm lowering it 20 thou, 20 thou, 20 thou. And you see there, I'm cut all the way through. And because I'm spray glued to the sacrificial board, I'm able to cut. Now this is my first test. I'm making sure that that fits inside there. And it does. I did offset it by 9/1000ths of an inch. So you could put negative 0.09 and you could offset. And so you see me there, I'm following the outside of the cut. And there again, the eye, another successful cut. And I started taking deeper and deeper cuts. I was literally cutting, I cut all the way through at a couple cuts, and you'll notice that S somewhere, like, oh, it's underneath the ice pick. The S got a little screwed up, and I ended up having to cut it again because I was taking such an aggressive cut that when it came right to the end, it broke free. So I ended up cutting through the aluminum in 3 passes. I was going down like, I don't know, like 40 thou each pass. So I did it in 3 passes, and then I kind of left an onion skin on these last few letters because I had destroyed 2 of the letters that broke free. They got caught up in the router. The beginning of that S and then the part of the R. And so there I'm breaking it free from the so-called onion skin, which is obviously aluminum, and then there they are. I did recut the piece of the R that broke free and the S that broke free. There you are. Now I'm just doing a little, making sure I have all my parts, doing a couple little test fits. I got panicked because that S was upside down at first, but it did fit. Just doing a rough test fit. And then I take them in, and then I do need to sand them, kind of again, because a couple of the full depth of cuts, the beginning and the end don't come cleanly. It's just, you have like kind of a nipple where you start and where you end, because as soon as the round part meets where it started, it breaks the part free. So here I'm just cleaning up some of the letters. And then also, you're going to get an inside cut inside of the pockets on the deck, on the wood, are going to have the radius of the router bit in them. So I need to sand the radius of the router bit out of the letters. So wherever there's like a sharp outside cut on the aluminum, I have to put a little 1/8 inch radius on it. Or I should say a 16th radius because it's the 1/8 inch bit. Okay, here I am on the deck of the trailer, and I'm just using typical 2-part epoxy. It might be DevCon 5 minutes epoxy. There's a little trick I like to keep them taped together. This way they don't get mismatched or fall apart. I always have the tape on them, keeping them together. Now I'm just flooding each pocket with as much epoxy as I can. I mix it up as I go. Just let it squish out. And I tap it in a little bit. There's a little bit of debris in the bottom of each one of the letters that I didn't fully take out, so that's why you notice me tapping. It's really just to mush any fuzz or anything underneath the letter. And I bent that one, so I bent it backwards, put it back in. And you see, like I said, I mix up the epoxy as I need it, and I'm just brushing it in. And you see that little trick just to get it all out with the tip of the ice pick. I always mix it up with the ice pick. If you do have an ice pick and you're going to mix up epoxy, do not put the ice pick away with wet epoxy on it. You think I don't need to say that, but it's because a few people did it and they asked me how do you get it out. You would heat it up to get it out. And the letters are a little proud. That board is cupped. It's cupped down, so there's an upward crown. So the top of the whole row of letters is raised up and out of the wood. So when I sand it later, I'm going to have a little bit of a tough time working through it. And this is it. This is the big finale. All the letters are glued in place. And I go and get my belt sander. Now it's 2 days later. I had plenty of time to cure. And I found with the belt sander, if I use an aggressive, like a 50 grit, the letters stay cooler. If I try to do it like 120 grit, the letters heat up really fast, and if they heat up, the epoxy will let go. So there, this is just to overemphasize the concept of why I use the shaper, because I could not bring this object under a CNC machine. So this is a perfect application for the shaper. And there it is. You see, like I said, I used 50 grit most of the way, and then finished it up with 120. So thank you, Shaper. Full disclosure, they gave me the machine. They didn't pay me for this video, but they did give me the machine. And I actually really like it. This was a learning experience for me.